It sounds terrible, but it speaks right to the heart of that. You know what I mean?
Right.
My mother reads this, so suddenly you can't, whatever you need to write or whatever you were going to write, and that censor starts to shape what you do, and you know, it can have consequences.
It's true.
So I think that's how it was, and it was a gift to me. You know, my parents were just thrilled. I mean, I was going through school. I went through undergraduate school. I didn't know how to, you know, when I got out of high school, I went to school in Dallas.
Right.
And when I graduated, it was kind of pretty much a vocational school. It was not a college prep school in any way.
Right.
And so I didn't know how to go to college. And the thing that saved me, in a weird way, that saved me, in that the only way for me to think about going to college, I went to U of A. I got a scholarship to go to U of A.
Oh, that's very good.
It was great, because I finished near the top of my class, that sort of stuff, and so I got this scholarship, and it was all great, because we couldn't have afforded it. We just literally could not have afforded college, which chills me now, you know what I mean?
Right.
What that would have done to my life. But when I went to college, I know when I left high school, and I went to college, the only way I could think about it, and it's what saved me, is I was going to 13th grade. I knew how to go from grade 1 to 2, 2 to 3, and so on. I had no idea how to go from high school to college, but I did know how to go from grade 12 to grade 13.
I've never really thought of it that way. That's a really good point.
It helped me so much not to get wrapped up in, hey, you're going to college now, or hey, you're doing this, or you're doing that. It's just the next thing. And I've come to that approach in my own writing, where I don't think about what I need to write in terms of the big picture. I'm going to write a novel, I'm going to write a poem, I'm going to write a story, I'm going to do whatever. I just need to write the next line. And if I can keep that in mind, I stay sane.
That's a very interesting thing. In regards to the family thing, I as well have parents who are very supporting, but they aren't really sure what I'm doing per se.
How can they be?
Yes, it's interesting, and they actually attempt to go to some of the events that I am in, but the way you described that is really interesting, because I'm in jazz band, and sometimes when I know that my parents are there, I tend to do things kind of, you know, safe, you know, and don't try to take it to the extreme level or anything. So
Of course.
it's very interesting.
That makes perfect sense. And what's so hard, really, is you're the worst you're going to be at that.
Yes.
Don't take that as an insult.
No.
You know what I mean? You're starting it. And so you are going to be influenced by a lot of things, including your parents being there, or you know, somebody you like being there, or somebody you hate being there, or whatever. You know, all these things come to bear
Right.
on that moment. So it's always amazing to me that artists of any kind
It's very true.
make their way in the world.
Yes.
In art.
In regards to your influences, did you have any major influences in your life, or perhaps any other poets or writers, that contemporary writers for that matter?
You know, I did not come to my writing as a reader. I read a lot, but I can't say that I connected my reading to my writing.
I see that.
I came to my writing as an act of discovery, and it just was not what I had read. And so I didn't, you know, people say I read Neruda, or I read, you know, whoever. It didn't work that way for me. I came to the writers who mattered to me much later in life.
I see.
And I came to them because we were speaking, I don't mean this, I mean this figuratively, we were speaking the same language. I found them later, and we were talking about the same things,
Right.
and often talking about them in similar ways. But I came to that point not having been influenced Sure, yeah, absolutely. And but I can't say that they influenced me the way people ask that question. You know.
Right.
I think I was alone in that, and just made my own way. So.
Okay. I've been reading your poetry, and I know you have a few books, and I was wondering if you've intentionally instilled a recurring theme in the books themselves, just separately, or if it's all throughout your whole series of poems.
I don't know that I purposely set out to do that, but I'm sure it's there, and I think the themes are people, family, place.
Right.
I'm not writing about Moscow. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
or Reykjavik, or anything like that. I write about what I know. That's the oldest advice you writers get. Write about what you know. But in doing that, that's not just saying that you're going to write provincial writing or narrow writing. To me, that's a great act because in writing what I do, I get to write about all sorts of things.
Yes.
And I think, it takes a while to learn not to be scared of that. And I think the greatest thing that a writer can do is to make something that's right in front of us brand new. It's easy to write about Reykjavik and everything's new. You know what I mean? It's just, it doesn't matter what I tell you. It's all going to be, ooh, aha.
Yes.
But if I tell you, I just saw this, palm tree. You go, man, I see them all the time. They're everywhere. But I can show you something new about it.
That's very true.
That's what I think. That's where I find the edge. People think about the edge as being at the end or the perimeter or somewhere out there.
Right.
I think the edge is right in front of us. And I think that's where I look for it.
Yeah, it always seems to me. I tend to see that as well. Like the edge is just right there, and the reason why I chose you as my as the poet that I'm going to be doing this research project on is because I saw a lot of different images that were very similar to ones that I've seen in my life because my family is from El Salvador, so yes, so not technically the same things, but they're very, very similar because they're very close together.
Sure.
Yes. Did you ever come between a crossroads in the diversity of cultures you were living in, for example the American and Mexican, and then with your parents the British and then the Mexican cultures?
Yeah. The thing is, I don't think I ever viewed it as a crossroads. It was a crossroads from the beginning. I had to face that every day. Just living on the border. You're just putting living on the border is different than coming from somewhere over here.
Right.
Because on the border, you're just right in between them all the time.
Yes.
You're never here, or you can't define what here is if here is two things.
Yes.
So I think I had that dilemma, and it was interesting. I take it as a very positive thing because it helped me see that everything in the world had more than one way to look at it.
Oh yes, that's most definitely true.
Two language, you have multiple languages, you have multiple words for everything. It helps me understand that no one word works.
Right.
Because somebody else has a different way to say it. And if you have a different way to say it, it means you've thought about it differently. And if you've thought about it differently, that's perspective. And perspective ultimately I think is we can call it intelligence, we can call it whatever we want. But it gives you a more grounded view of the world that, you're living in it. You're not controlling it. You're part of it. You can do things with it, but don't ever be fooled.
Very true.